quick thought to share today. In the words of my lovely wife, sharing a thought. Consumerism. We all consume things. It's a consumer-driven economy, they always say. And the stuff we consume isn't always material stuff. It's substantive or weighty to the extent that we give it weight. And when it comes to news,
I don't watch the news.
we consume that stuff. I've gone back and forth over the years. I remember a long time ago, in the early 1980s, I was in the military and I walked in what they call the day room, where the kind of like the community TV was there for anyone who didn't have their own. Come in and watch the news or MTV, whatever they could agree to watch. There was a news break in between the TV show or the movie or whatever it was we were watching, and this person comes on. It was during the Tylenol murders. In case you never heard of that, there was somebody who was putting cyanide inside of Tylenol in the stores and killed a few people. And they came on, they're very stern and very serious, and another person has been injured or is in critical condition due to the Tylenol poisonings, and gave you the update, and then news, sports, and weather is 12.
I don't watch the news.
Just flipped right to it. Just a happy face, and oh yeah, sports and weather. And it was like this light came on. It's like, this is just a big game. I mean, those people are real. The news is just a big show. It's something, I don't know if it was ever real. It certainly isn't real now. It's just something to sell you. And yes, they do have an agenda. There's no doubt about it. It's not just what sells, because you can have whole networks like CNN that really don't sell anything. These people aren't watching it because they don't want the garbage they have to offer. But there are a lot of people that are glued to it. They can be glued to the gloom and doom. They can be glued to the horrors. They can be glued to specific things like the end of the world type stuff.
Apparently you're spinning around, and apparently every time you get dizzy.
Something related to scandalous skin, flesh, whatever, that gets people all riled up. So people are purchasing this stuff. And as I started, the little light came on, I stopped watching the news for years after that.
I don't watch the news.
And like I say, I've been back and forth over the years because I still want to be informed. I want to know what's going on, but I found in myself there was this kind of like cycle going on. It's like, oh,
I just freak out.
or whatever the reaction was, and it was constant. It was constant. It was almost like you needed to get your oh for the day by watching the news, even though the big shocker wasn't fulfilled. You can say, well, maybe not for you, but in San Bernardino it was, today, in Bangladesh or in New York City or wherever. So, it's legitimate to become aware of these things. But the need to have your daily dose of, it's not necessary. But it is a cycle, and it is something that's designed. They keep you in this mode where you're constantly coming back for more. And it's almost implied that, this is it, this is the big one, but no, it's just a never-ending series of this is it, this is the big ones. And it never is, this is it, never. I mean, someday it will be, but it's not going to be in the news because it's going to be the end of the world. It's going to be the Lord's going to come, and sheep's on one side, goats on the other. It's all going to be over. It's just in the meantime, they have a product to sell, and we are consumers who need to decide what are we going to buy. And I just chose not to buy it as much anymore. I suggest you do too. Get to know your creator more, because these things are going to happen either way. I mean, be aware for your own environment, for the sake of people you love, and be safe and all that. But there's one thing that the news is selling, and it's a shock and awe type of thing. It doesn't prepare you for anything. It doesn't, in essence, it doesn't even really inform you of anything. It just provides this shock, the shock of your choice. There can be environmentalism shock, political shock, violent shock, crime shock. It's all just something to grab your attention so you'll keep consuming it. And you keep consuming it, now they have a reason to be in business, and they have a reason to produce more of it. And that's the thing is, Now, because of that, they're just going to keep producing more. And when they're not sure, they're just going to throw it out there. Like I say, it's agenda driven. You know, if there's a mass murder, if they can come up with one of their enemies is being at fault for it. Oh, I think that's Donald Trump's brother. Oh man, that was Donald Trump who did that. You know, whatever they can come up with to add to it, to add the spice that they want, the flavor they want to the story. The point is they're motivated because we're feeding off of it. And I've always said, and I used to say when I was in more communication with like the talk show hosts, Hugh Hewitt, I used to be in touch with him, and not directly, but in the sense I was communicating and blogging and all these things. And I say, well, what if you guys just didn't pay attention to the New York Times and the Jake Tappers and the Face the Nations and the 60 Minutes and all these bozos? You just completely ignored them. I mean, I know there's a lot of the nation that still will, and it might be more than 50%. But if you start the trend of just don't pay attention to them, just do your own thing, just leave them alone. But then I realized they were in the same business. They needed them. They said they opposed them, but they needed them because they were producing something on the same plane for you to consume. So they could create outrage about the New York Times and Jake Tapper and the Face of the Nation. And oh, they did all these terrible things, and they needed their foil there to produce their need to exist. Whereas I disagree with that. They could have just went on about their merry business and just focusing on the truth. Why focus on a bunch of liars and what they're saying every day? They may not get you a lot of attention at first, but the point is what's of value? The point is, what do you want? Do you want to do what everyone is doing because everyone is doing it? Or do you want to actually focus on the truth? And my contention is that most people don't want to focus on the truth. Whether it's life in general, religion in particular, politics in particular. And that was one thing I had to find out, you know, like Hugh Hewitt, for example. I thought he was really sharp person. And he's sharp, he's smart, but he's playing the game. He's just one of the people that's there playing the game and selling his particular version of the oh my gosh of the day. He's selling his particular version of the outrage of the day. That's all it is. Just a business, just like church, just like anything else. It's just a money-making proposition. And I think the best you can do, or any of us can do, is just to refuse to participate. You don't have to be a part of it. It's not required. It's not mandatory. You can live your life without all that stuff. In Jesus' name.